Good afternoon. This is JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, and I wanted to read a little bit of this. I'm on a site called historyfacts.com, and the title of this article is The Bizarre Election of George Washington. And I'll read some. These days, we take for granted the organized chaos that accompanies the U.S. presidential election every 4 years. From the lengthy nominating cycles and raucous party conventions to the relentless media coverage that analyzes the candidates' every word and gesture. By that standard, the 1789 election that made George Washington the first president of America was far quieter, but in some ways it was even stranger. America's first election looked very different from today's presidential races. There were no official political parties and campaigning. God, I wish there was no campaigning today. And nearly everyone wanted the same candidate to win. The election of 1789 served as a blueprint for how presidents would be picked in the United States. Though many rules have changed since then, here's a look at the bizarre and historic event in democracy. And unfortunately, a true statement here. We can thank this election for the Electoral College. Yes, we can, and it sucks. Origins of the first presidential election were the passionate discussions held by delegates in the 1787 Constitutional Convention. Until that point in the nation's brief history, the Articles of Confederation had proven inadequate as a basis for a unified central government, which lacked the power to levy taxes, regulate commerce, or enact foreign policies. As such, the convention delegates haggled over details of a new system. Federalists, including James Madison and Alexander Hamilton, were eager to imbibe, the central government with a raft of powers, while the anti-federalists, such as George Mason, were leery of diminishing the rights of the individual states. Although the participants came to agree on the creation of an office for the head of government, one major point of contention was just how this chief executive would be selected. Given the prevailing belief that in separation of powers, it was determined that a parliamentary system in which the legislature voted for an executive leader like the Great Britain uses was a bad idea. The convention's delegates also reasoned that it wasn't feasible to leave the vote directly up to the people. Yeah, we're not smart enough. We're too dumb to vote for ourselves. Who harbored diverse interests and were likely to put forth an array of provincial candidates in lieu of a unifying national figure. Yeah, bullshit. The delegates ultimately settled a system of electors now known as the Electoral College, to be appointed by each state according to a process of choosing. The number of electors was equal to the state's number of congressional representatives, ranging from 3 in Delaware to 12 in Virginia, for a total of 69 electors in all. As eventually stated, Article 2, Section 1 of the Constitution, each of these electors was to vote for 2 people, at least one of them from another state, after which the leading vote getter would become the president. Runner-up would be the vice president. If 2 candidates tied, or if anyone failed to accumulate a majority, the winner would be determined by the House of Representatives. That's enough. I've read for 3 minutes, and I think it's really crazy. And here, I will go on down here for a little bit. It says only 10 out of the states participated in the election. Adhering to the language of the Constitution, each state determined its own method for naming electors. Here we go. Doesn't that sound familiar? Each state has its own method for naming electors, which had to be chosen by January 7th, 1789. In Connecticut, Georgia, South Carolina, electors were appointed by state legislatures, while in New Jersey, the governor had a privy council that did the deed. In New Hampshire, residents voted on a list of candidates, and the legislature selected 5 of the top 10 finalists. In Massachusetts, the legislature chose one of the 2 candidates who received the most votes by residents in each of the 8 districts and appointed 2 additional electors at large. Elsewhere, the populace largely determined the winning electors. And with varying regional wrinkles, Pennsylvania and Maryland both had statewide ballots although the latter instituted a rule in which the majority of electors had to come from Western Shore and the rest from the Eastern Shore. Delaware's electors were determined by the winners of 3 districts, while Virginia voters voted among 12 electoral districts that were distinct from its 10 congressional districts. Noticeably absent from this list are North Carolina, Rhode Island, and the 2 Commonwealths that had not been ratified as the Constitution, and as such were not formally part of the United States. New York was a member of the Union then, but its legislature failed to agree on a process for determining electors by January 7th, rendering the state ineligible to participate. And basically, the only candidate was George Washington, and he won. So it says the overwhelming favorite was George Washington, the Revolutionary War hero who had also provided over the 1787 Constitutional Convention. And the only question was, would he accept the job? Well, apparently he accepted it. So, let's see here. And John Adams was the vice president. Now, if you listen to all that, what you learned is how the Electoral College was formed. And it was probably because there was no communication like radio, television, or the internet, but it also was because they thought the common man was too dumb to direct the president, elect the president by popular vote. And in the southern states, used the Electoral College, and they counted slaves as part of their population, so they'd get more electoral votes. In case you haven't heard that, it's true. So this is how we ended up through a weird fucking election to get the messed up Electoral College, which needs to be booted out and thrown away. And it's just a mess, and it gives the advantage to the slaveholding states even today. The southern states have an advantage in electoral votes against the northern states. So to become president, even if you're a blue Democrat in a blue state, you got to get 1 or 2 red states to vote for you so you get all the electoral votes. It's a totally fucked up system. It's like walking in muck up to your knees to try and elect a president. Well, this is the JC, St. Louis's oldest living hippie, saying, fuck Donald Trump, fuck J.D. Vance. Vote for Harris and Walz, please. Vote blue, we need it. And to all my people who follow me, all my friends, family, I love you. And I say, pack some more, Jack. Keep on trucking. Keep on slinging that muck and walking through it. Keep on trucking means keep those feet going even in knee-high muck.